The historic Pact for Colombia coalition called upon political actors to reject coup-like actions. Shooting at a car show leaves 1 dead and 10 wounded in the U.S. city of Dumas, Arkansas, the second registered firearms attack in less than 24 hours. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, an attack by militants of the CODECO rebel group in the northeastern Ituri province left at least 14 people dead. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We begin in Colombia. The historic Pact Coalition called upon Colombian political parties to reject coup-like actions after the recount of the votes. The head of the coalition, Gustavo Petro, stressed the importance of defending democracy and called all political parties to condemn the calls for a coup d'etat made by former President Álvaro Uribe and his Democratic Center coalition, which also insists on disowning and boycotting Petro's victory after his political coalition won last Sunday's legislative elections. In spite of acknowledging numerous errors, the director of the Electoral Observation Mission, Alejandra Barrios Cabrera, pointed out that the entity does not have sufficient elements to point out the existence of fraud. The defense of former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernández submitted an appeal this Saturday to the Supreme Court of Justice against the resolution issued last Wednesday approving the extradition of the former president to the United States. The lawyers of Hernández's defense team informed that they expect the prosecutors to make a thorough review of the appeal, where they have included matters that were not submitted for examination. Lawyers claim that no Latin American treaty includes extraditing a national, and recall that treaties are mutually binding on states, and those that do exist only provide for the imposition of sanctions in accordance with investigations. Former President Hernández's extradition now depends on the response of the Supreme Court of Justice once it rules on the appeal claiming that the evidence from the United States against Hernández never arrived to Honduras.
Suddenly, supposedly videos, statements, or stuff. It might be said that the United States has them reserved, but the point is that they did not appear here.
In the state bulletin, the Argentine executive power officialized the first two measures announced by President Alberto Fernández, the creation of the Wheat Stabilization Fund and the modification of the current system of retention on soy-derived products. Combined with the congressional approval of the agreement with the International Monetary Fund, they are part of an anti-inflation measures package. It adds up to the recent call for the different sectors to meet this Monday and thus broaden the range of the measures package. In doing so, the nation is trying to reduce the local impact of the sharp rise in the international price of certain products as a result of the conflict in Ukraine and the sanctions imposed against Russia by Washington and its partners in Europe. The Ministry of Education and the Board of Directors of the Confederation of Urban Teachers of Bolivia reached an agreement Friday night which puts an end to the protest stage in recent days. As per the agreement, teachers leave all pressure measures and will be resuming all academic activities as of Monday. The agreement sets a higher budget for education, representing 10.8% of the nation's budget, a budget which will further be subjected to analysis by different work tables, and it sets the number of teaching positions under the current administration at 3,300. In Peru, President Pedro Castillo met with the relatives of the victims of two massacres for which former President Alberto Fujimori had been convicted. Fujimori was released from prison on Thursday by the Constitutional Court. After the meeting held at the government palace, President Castillo listened to the claims of indignations made by parents, siblings, and children of those targeted by an illegal squad, which either murdered or disappeared people suspected of having taken part in armed actions under the Fujimori administrations. Voices of rejection inside and outside Peru have given way to different reactions, like that of Constitutional Court President Augusto Ferrero, who said the decision can be appealed at international courts. Gisela Ortiz, sister of one of the 10 students kidnapped, tortured, and assassinated by the squads, who served as culture minister under Castillo, said the families deserve justice.
The different state powers, but also the different institutions should get involved in these issues, because at the end of the day, what we want is to come out of these experiences strengthened. Since yesterday we have learned about this decision of the Constitutional Court of pardoning former President Fujimori on humanitarian grounds. We, the relatives, have expressed our indignation because we believe that the reasons for which The pardon was given in 2018 in an improper manner, violating the administrative process without a medical report to justify the humanitarian pardon, are still the same today. And the Supreme Court in 2018 ruled that this was an illegal pardon. Then we do not understand the reasoning because we do not know it yet from the Constitutional Court. However, we must say that it affects us in our rights as families to demand justice when one of the main political responsible for the death and disappearance of our relatives is granted freedom.
After learning of the Constitutional Court's decision granting a humanitarian pardon to former President Alberto Fujimori, Peruvian Deputy Justice Minister Juan Carrasco recalled the argument given in 2018 by the Human Rights Inter-American Court so that the former president would remain in prison.
We take it as a principle that corrupt individuals and assassins should not be favored with any measure that will mean their release from prison. They should serve their full sentence and they should pay their civic dues.
In Guatemala, an unknown percentage of its soil has lost their fertility due to the excessive use of chemical inputs for agricultural production, for consumption and export. The high cost of these fertilizers and their impact on nature motivate several families to farm under the agroecological system. Our correspondent Rolanda Garcia brings us more details.
These farmers understand in soil deterioration. Look.
Because we did not use so much poison before, if we seeded beans, it came out normally. Trees bore lots of fruits. We seeded tomatoes. We seeded sandias. But now we can no longer do it naturally. Now we always use herbicides, fungicides, so that we can produce them as well.
This farmer emphasizes that in several regions of the country the soils have lost their fertility. This problem forces producers to increase the use of agrochemicals.
Because there are parts of the soil that still have strength, and there are parts that no longer have strength. And that part that no longer has strength needs fertilizer. We need to help the soil because if we don't help the soil, the products will not come out.
This farmer points out that the excessive use of agrochemical inputs has caused unknown diseases in crops.
We were producing corn and then the disease hit us, so we couldn't sell anymore. There is a loss. Farmers are losing corn, and now the price of fertilizer is very expensive. So now, where are we going to get the money from?
This farmer emphasizes that agroecological farmers believe that chemical inputs should be abandoned and that instead they should turn to organic agriculture as an alternative to stop soil damage.
That is why we have to avoid it. Look for ways to improve our life by avoiding the use of chemicals and dedicate ourselves to the organic. And as you see, the sandia I have it with what is organic. I also have chicken manure in putting bushes to continue with a good plantation.
In Guatemala, most agricultural production happens under the conventional system. However, efforts to promote organic agriculture are increasing.
Rolanda Garcia, teleSUR.
Take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. In the United States, a shooting at a car show left at least 1 dead and 10 wounded in the city of Dumas in the state of Arkansas. This is the second registered firearms attack in the country in less than 24 hours. The local police department said the condition of the wounded is still unknown and that all of them had been taken to the hospitals. And there's not much information available yet on the alleged attacker. Police officers and detectives arrived at the scene after a phone call reporting a shooting at the entrance of a local business. The Desha County Emergency Management Office reported that 2 separate incidents had also occurred. One was a high-speed chase and the second one occurred during a car show at a parking lot. We stay in the U.S. The nation's Coast Guard rescued 189 people 20 miles off the coast of Haiti on Saturday. The castaways were trying to reach that country in search of a better life. The Coast Guard said they have significantly increased patrolling in the area of the straits between Cuba and Haiti in view of the current wave of Haitian citizens trying to get to the United States. On his part, the Rio Admiral of the 7th Coast Guard District said they are extending vigilance also to all areas southeast of the United States coast in order to intercept and rescue migrants in overloaded and unsafe vessels. This Sunday, Sergei Kurpyanov, official representative of Gazprom, confirmed that the supply of Russian gas continues to be delivered as usual to Europe through the Ukrainian territory. The energy giant's executive assured that up to March 20th, they had delivered 106.6 million cubic meters of gas to their European customers, a quantity that corresponds to the deliveries they have been making normally since operations began. Likewise, after recognizing that in general terms, Europe has significantly increased its gas purchases from Russia due to the cold weather, the official disclosed that on Saturday the request made by several countries of the European Union to the company amounted to 106.6 million cubic meters. In Ukraine's Donetsk region, authorities report an increase in the number of fatalities and injuries as a result of intensified attacks by Ukrainian troops in the context of the conflict between the Balkan nation and Russia. The representative office of the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic informed that at least 55 people lost their lives in that region, while another 318 have been wounded, among them 22 children, in the last month. These figures are mainly due to the actions of various Ukrainian armed groups fighting against the pro-independence forces of the region and the Russian army. They also point out that 1,399 buildings and 388 civilian facilities have been damaged as a result of the conflicts, including healthcare centers, water, energy, and gas supply facilities, as well as educational institutions. And UK Finance Ministry officials admitted that the economic sanctions imposed by London on Moscow after the Russian military operation in Ukraine will impact the nation's economy. The British Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, acknowledged that the punitive measures against Russia will have a toll on the British economy, adding that the government will not be able to fully protect the population from the difficult times ahead. These statements come in the context of a set of economic and financial sanctions imposed on companies, entities, and individuals considered to be close to the Kremlin. British citizens will have to face, as from April 4th, a 54% increase in the electricity bills. Although the British government offered loans to high-income families to help them soften the blow, many analysts consider that the aid will be insufficient in the face of rising inflation.
Putin must fail.
The Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi reaffirmed on Sunday that his country will not accept pressure from anyone and assured that they are certain to be on the right side of history. The foreign minister made the statements in an interview granted to national media, in which he also referred to the points of view that President Xi Jinping and Joe Biden exchanged on March 18th during a video call. Yi said the Chinese president clearly and comprehensively explained Beijing's position on the conflict in Ukraine and recalled that China has always been a force interested in maintaining world peace. The head of the Chinese diplomacy stated his country does not accept external pressures and further rejects any unfounded accusations against the nation for its stance on the conflict in Ukraine, reaffirming that it will continue to make independent judgments on the issue based objectively and fairly on the roots of the problem. And a car slammed at a high speed into carnival travelers in a small town in southern Belgium early Sunday, killing 6 people and leaving 10 more with life-threatening injuries. The prosecutor's office said that in the early stages of the investigation there were no elements to suspect a terror motive, and 2 locals in their 30s were arrested at the scene in a Trepik-Bakekini, around 50 kilometers south of Brussels. More than 150 people of all ages had gathered around 5 a.m. and were participating in the event when the incident occurred. Several dozens also were more lightly injured. Local authorities decided to stop the carnival.
It's a car that deliberately crashed into the crowd. as they say, and there are surreal images that you can see on television, in films, and that you never think you see in real life. There are bodies flying, people screaming. It's moments completely out of time for a few minutes, and it's really horrific.
We have more news coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, an attack by militants of the CODECO rebel group in the northeastern Ituri province left at least 14 people dead. The local Red Cross reported that the attack took place on Saturday in a refugee camp and all the dead were displaced nationals, including 7 children. CODECO, acronym for Cooperative for the Development of the Congo, is an armed militia composed mainly of representatives of the Lendu people, which operates in the province of Ituri. CODECO militants entered Drakpa and hacked people to death with machetes, a local leader said. The group has been accused on several occasions by the UN of perpetrating massacres and war crimes. The Algerian government described as a betrayal against the Sahrawi people Spain's decision of granting Morocco autonomy over the territories of Western Sahara. The government of Algeria expressed its discontent at the decision of the president of the Spanish government, Pedro Sanchez, who sent a letter to the King of Morocco, Mohammed VI, in which the Spanish head of state said the Moroccan project for Western Sahara is the most serious, realistic, and plausible proposal for the solution of the controversy over the territory. In this regard, government authorities summoned their ambassador in Madrid, said Maouzi, in light of the change in Madrid's policy on Western Sahara. Algeria sees this measure as a second historical betrayal by Spain, which in 1975 signed with Morocco and Mauritania an agreement to abandon the territory, leaving it mainly in the property of Morocco. The representative of the Polisario Front, Abdullah Arabi, described the decision taken by the government of Spain as contradictory since it is not consistent with this country's commitment in terms of international legality and respect for international law.
Taken by the Spanish government because it contradicts a consensus that has always existed at the level of the political forces that have alternated in government in Spain over the last 46 years. And it also contradicts the commitment that Spain has always had to international legality and respect for international law.
Abdullah Arabi considered that Spain's new political position on the Western Sahara is due to the permanent pressure from Morocco.
We understand that this is the result of a permanent and insistent pressure from Morocco during the last month, and it has been a toll paid by the Spanish government to try to reestablish its relations with Morocco. But of course, far from achieving stability, a solution to the conflict in Western Sahara, what it will cause is an increase in tensions in a vital region for the strategic interest of Spain, as is the north of Africa.
In Pakistan, in the city of Sialkot, in the north of the country, a chain of explosions occurred near the provinces of Punjab. According to local media, the accident occurred in a military garrison, and so far, there are no reports of anyone, neither injured nor dead. In a preliminary report, authorities indicated that the cause of the explosions might have been a short circuit, which led to a fire that, in turn, caused the explosions. For that military warehouse stored ammunition and flammable material. The swift intervention of firefighters and security forces in the area prevented human casualties and serious material damage. In Egypt, archaeologists unveiled 5 ancient pharaonic tombs at the Sahara Archaeological site south of Cairo, the latest in a series of landmark discoveries in this area. Sahara is a vast necropolis of the ancient Egyptian capital Memphis, an UNESCO World Heritage Site, home to more than a dozen pyramids, animal burial sites, and ancient Coptic Christian monasteries. The 5 tombs were discovered northeast of the pyramid of King Merenre I, who ruled around 2270 BC. According to Mustafa Wasili, head of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, the 5 tombs belong to senior royal officials. In addition, this year, Egyptian authorities hope to inaugurate the new Grand Egyptian Museum near the Giza Plateau, which, altogether with various and recent archaeological discoveries, they hope it will help revive the country's vital tourism industry.
We discovered 5 tombs, all of them back to the Old Kingdom and the first intermediate periods. So we took about 4,000 years old tombs, well painted, well decorated.
Some of them, he used to play the turn of being the mayor. Some others, the supervisor of the cemetery, the supervisor of the palace, the stamp or the seal carrier. Some others, they've got also the titles of the supervisor of the garden.
We've come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Remember, you can join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.